In the early 90s, Nintendo was atop the video game world with the massive success of the Nintendo Entertainment System, Game Boy, and Super Nintendo. When it came time to start exploring potential ideas for their next system, Nintendo looked outside of Japan all the way to Cambridge, Massachusetts, where an engineer named Alan Becker had a clever idea. He wanted to use LEDs to create a head-mounted personal display as a means of viewing information when both hands were occupied. He started reflection technology and called his device Private Eye. It was seen as nothing more than a gimmick until the virtual reality boom of the early 90s, thanks in part to arcades and movies like The Lawnmower Man. Virtual reality became this buzzword in the tech industry, a promise to take people into a computer-generated world that makes them feel like they're actually there. Both reflection technology and Nintendo saw the gaming possibilities of VR, immersing the gamer in total darkness so they couldn't feel the frame of the screen, games that could transcend the restricting borders of a television set. And so Nintendo purchased a worldwide exclusive license to the Private Eye display technology for use in their video games. Now, Nintendo had their next system, what would eventually be called the Virtual Boy, and it would become Nintendo's biggest mistake. So, what went wrong? First of all, in spite of its name, there was one thing that the Virtual Boy definitely was not: virtual reality. The player used the console like a head-mounted display, pressing their face against the eyepieces, where each eye would see a line of red LEDs, interrupted by small oscillating mirrors vibrating back and forth at a very high speed to create the illusion of depth. The LEDs created this odd monochrome display, but developers thought the red and black wouldn't be an issue since audiences were already used to the Game Boy, which was just green and black. A main difference between the two consoles, though, was that the Game Boy launched with the game Tetris, a game that quickly became a cultural phenomenon. The Virtual Boy launched in the US on August 14, 1995, with Mario Tennis, Galactic Pinball, Red Alarm, and Teleroboxer. None of these were must-have games. The closest the Virtual Boy got was with Wario Land, which was released about 3 months later. But by that point, it was already too late for the doomed console. Developers made the mistake of focusing solely on the tech, but not the games. Press releases and interviews mentioned the technological capabilities of the Virtual Boy, promising a private universe where its audience could be totally immersed, but Nintendo continually avoided conversations about the games that would be released. And Nintendo's hyper-focus on all the wrong details is the large issue that plagued the Virtual Boy from the beginning. In 1994, Nintendo was in a tough spot. The entire gaming industry knew that the year would see the launch of two major next-gen consoles: the Sega Saturn and the Sony PlayStation, while Nintendo's own next-gen console, the Nintendo 64, wouldn't be ready for another 2 years. The absence in the new game market would have damaged the company's reputation, and so in fear of losing the limelight, Nintendo rushed the Virtual Boy to compete against Sega and Sony. But its biggest competitor actually came in-house, with the Nintendo 64. Over the course of its development, Virtual Boy's technology was downscaled due to high cost, and an increasing amount of attention and resources were allocated to the development of the Nintendo 64. Lead game designers within the company had little involvement with the Virtual Boy, but not only that, they also instructed the Virtual Boy team to de-emphasize Mario on their system, as the character was slated to make his big 3D debut on the Nintendo 64. So Nintendo's biggest star was basically yanked off the console, and the tech was rushed in spite of its own flaws to simply fill the void of Nintendo's absence in the gaming world. And that resulted in tech that wasn't just clunky and misguided, but also potentially dangerous. On July 1st, 1995, a new law came into effect in the country of Japan, the Product Liability Act. The new law made companies responsible for any accidents caused by the use of their products. Because of this law, products came with manuals that had warnings and massive lists of things the user shouldn't do. When testing the console before launch, doctors found that the technology was generally harmless, though it could cause eye strain and even cause young children with underdeveloped optic systems to develop a lazy eye if the two displays were misaligned. Nintendo implemented a built-in software timer into its games that would remind users every 15 minutes to pause and rest their eyes. Similar warnings were in the product manual. One warning stated that children under the age of 7 shouldn't even use the console at all. The entire manual read like a long list of don'ts that made the product seem like it was bad for your health. Leading up to the launch, the media seized the manual full of health and eyesight warnings and sensationalized them, implying that the system was definitely bad for the player's health. The Virtual Boy made its debut in Japan on July 21st, 1995, and then came to the United States on August 14th of that same year, retailing at a relatively high $179.95, which is a little over $300 today. This was far more expensive than either the Game Boy or Super Nintendo. With the higher price and the name Virtual Boy, audience expectations were high. Audiences expected virtual reality, which, again, it wasn't. That was just the marketing angle. What they got instead was a clunky Game Boy that wasn't portable and required an awkward table stand. The cost, discomfort while playing, and misleading marketing led to a slew of negative reviews. Audiences didn't like the red monochrome, the lack of motion tracking when they turned their heads, the multiplayer functions between consoles was abandoned, and it left many with a feeling of dizziness, nausea, and headaches. Nintendo projected to sell 3 million units of the Virtual Boy in its first year, but a tepid launch left them scrambling. Nintendo partnered with Blockbuster to rent out the system so people could try it for themselves, a desperate strategy to get around the difficulty of conveying the system's 3D effect in print and commercials. When demand for the Virtual Boy diminished quickly, the price dropped almost in half. Nintendo's plan of releasing 2 to 3 new games per month was cancelled, with only 22 games ever released, 14 of which ever made it to the United States before the Virtual Boy was officially dead in less than a year. In the end, only 770,000 units were sold worldwide, making it Nintendo's lowest selling standalone console ever and the only to have less than 1 million units sold. The Virtual Boy was, and still is, Nintendo's biggest mistake. But on its way to failing spectacularly, it helped kickstart the concepts of wearable computing and augmented reality. It also powered the first and only natively stereoscopic video game system, a remarkably forward-thinking achievement that was way ahead of its time, especially considering that it would take almost 20 years before consumers were ready to step inside a virtual gaming world again. Nintendo's a successful company because they understand the importance of not putting all your eggs in just one basket. Yes, the Virtual Boy failed, but they also had the Nintendo 64, which was a massive success. When the name of the game is risk management, being diversified both creatively and financially is so important for companies, but it's also important for individuals, most importantly when it comes to managing your money and preserving your wealth. And that's something that Masterworks, the sponsor of this video, understands. Masterworks is a platform started by art collectors and tech entrepreneurs that makes it easier for you to gain exposure to art as an asset class. You might be asking, why art? Well, it's a market worth about $1.7 trillion and is continuing to grow. Contemporary art prices reportedly outpaced the S&P 500 total return by 174% from 1995 to 2020. On top of that, it's shown almost no correlation to any major asset class. This basically means that its price movements don't behave similarly to any other major markets. And therein lies the diversification element. It's just like buying shares of Apple or Tesla on your favorite trading app. But with Masterworks, you can invest in shares that represent an investment in art by famous artists like Banksy and Monet. Getting started is easy and just takes a few clicks. Go to masterworks.io, create an account, browse their artwork, and you can begin diversifying your portfolio with one of the most stable assets in the market right now. Now, this won't be for everyone, but if you're financially stable enough and want to help protect your portfolio and wealth, then consider investing in fine art with Masterworks. If you are interested, you can use my link below to skip the waitlist and gain priority access so you can start investing immediately. So click the link below and check out everything they have to offer. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed something a little different than what you're maybe used to from this channel. If you've been following this channel for long enough, you know that I love exploring different mediums and art forms, and getting to finally approach video games has been great. This was the most fun I've had editing a video in maybe over a year. If you like channels that explore different topics in entertaining ways, and you're not already subscribed, then hit that subscribe button. But make sure that everyone out there is still hitting that bell icon below. I keep saying it, but people continually reach out to me and ask why they aren't seeing my new videos when they come out. And it's because YouTube isn't sharing it with you. It's all about algorithms and them choosing what they want to show you. But if you're subscribed to this channel and you don't want to miss a new video whenever it comes out, then that's the only way to make sure you're notified when a new Entertain the Elk video comes out. So stop what you're doing real quick and just click that bell. I know it's annoying and it's another tedious, needless step, but it's really the only way to make sure that you don't miss a new video. I'm already hard at work on my next video, which is going to be my 100th video on the channel. So I'm gonna try and do something a little bigger to make it special, and just trying to find some way to celebrate the occasion of doing 100 videos on this channel, which is so wild. So thank you all for coming along on the ride, and I will see you all very soon.